students, I'm really happy to be with you all, meeting you over the online class, the YouTube class. And today's class is for class 8 as usual, and we are going to discuss something very, very important today, and that is letter writing. You see, letter writing starts from class 5. Even from the primary level, we are introduced to writing letters, but unfortunately, we do not learn the right way to write a letter. I repeat, we don't learn the correct way to write the letter. What is the correct way of writing a letter? We need to look into certain points to understand this. You see, letters can be broadly divided into two forms or two categories, namely a formal letter and an informal letter. A formal letter is a letter, a kind of letter that is written to officials. This is the first thing that you need to keep in mind. A formal letter is a letter that is written to officials. It is not a kind of letter that you write to your friends, your relatives, your parents. No. It is not a personal letter. A formal letter is an official letter written to officers. What kind? Who are the officers? For example, your principal. You need a holiday, leave. You need 2 days or 3 days leave because you need to attend your uncle's marriage or auntie's marriage, or maybe your one of your relatives is hospitalized, or maybe you want to take a leave for some other reason. It could be personal, So you need a leave and you need to seek permission to take that leave. You just can't go straight away to your principal and say, ma'am or sir, I need 2 to 3 days leave, please grant me. No, that is not the procedure. So you need to approach your principal or the head of the institution in a formal way. What do you mean by formal? In a proper way, through writing, black and white. You have to write the reason for your leave, and you will have to mention the number of days that are required as leave, and you have to mention the purpose or the reason as to why you are taking leave. These aspects need to be included in the letter. This is known as a formal letter. So remember, the first point is that a formal letter is not a personal letter. A formal letter is an official letter. That is the point to be kept in mind. And to whom do we write formal letters? We write formal letters. We write formal letters to officials like a principal, a bank manager. You want to open an account, so you write a formal letter to him. You want to close an account, you write an application. You want to transfer your account, you write an application. You need a checkbook, you write an application. So there are several purposes related to the bank, related to your transaction in the bank, related to your accounts. Or you need a loan, you write an application to the bank manager. So letter writing is a part and parcel of our life. It is an integral part of our life which you cannot avoid. So letter writing is a formal letter as well as an informal letter. Letter writing consists of two letters. One is a formal letter, the other one is the informal letter. Now today we will be discussing the features of a formal letter. This is very important. Formal letters can include enquiries. Enquiries, number 1. Placing an order. This is another one. Complaint letter. Letter of a complaint. This is another one. And finally, editor. Letter to a newspaper editor. Take a careful note of this. Enquiries, placing orders, complaint, and letter to the newspaper editor. So, we can broadly divide the formal letters into these 4 categories. So, now, we are coming to the features of a formal letter. What are the features? It has its own characteristics. You look at the board here. The first one is, it is very brief. A formal letter, unlike an informal letter, is very, very brief. You cannot prolong it. You cannot prolong the letter. So, the maximum lines that you can go up to should be between 8 and 10. 8 to 10 lines. Keep your letter as brief as possible. Because we are not writing an essay, we are not writing a story, we are not writing a paragraph. It's none of this. So what is it? It is a letter stating a requirement. It is a letter seeking permission. It is a letter placing an order. It is a letter which lodges a complaint. It is a letter discussing a matter or an issue with the editor of a newspaper. These are the characters. These are the varieties of formal letters. So, the first and foremost thing that you need to understand about a formal letter is it is very, very brief. Point number 2. The format of a formal letter. That is very important. What do you mean by the format? The structure. For any letter, we need to have a structure. Our human body has a structure. Our bones, the skeletal system, gives a structure to our body. Without the skeletal system, we would be just like a mass of jelly. Only the tissues and the cells and the nerves, they don't make a proper shape. So, it is a skeleton which gives a proper shape to our human body in the same manner. It is the format which gives a structure or a shape to a letter. That is the first and foremost thing, the basic requirement. You know, sometimes when we come across letters of students, this has been my personal experience, they write everything, but there is no sender's address. There is no receiver's address. There is no format, no date. Sometimes they don't even sign their name. These are some of the common mistakes committed by students while attempting a letter. So these mistakes should be definitely avoided by all means, So format is important. I will discuss the format separately in another class. Language. What exactly should the language of a formal letter be? It should be very, very polite because you are writing a letter to an officer. If you are requesting him to do something, your language must be very polite. You cannot go on ordering about. You must do this. You should do this. So must, should, all these modal verbs are avoided because they do not show signs of politeness. Instead, we use polite terms like please, I humbly request you, I request you, or it is requested, please be good enough, please be kind enough. These are some of the terms and I will discuss the terms. Once this background information is over, we will analyze a particular letter and then I will give you some topics to write as well. So, a formal letter, as I have just told you, should be brief. The format of the letter is very, very important. And the third point is, as I have discussed, a politeness. Politeness of language. Without politeness, no letter is possible. Your letter becomes an arrogant letter. Your letter becomes an arrogant letter. The language becomes aggressive. Language becomes arrogant. Don't use an arrogant language. Number 4, you have to organize your letter. How do you organize your letter? You have an introduction to the letter, then the body of the letter, the content of the letter, and then finally the conclusion of the letter. So in the beginning you introduce yourself, and in the body you mention the problem, your requirement, and then finally you close the letter with a note of thanks. You thank the official for going to do what you are asking him to do. You thank the official because he is going to take a proper action. So with that, the letter comes to a close. Signature is a must. Signature. Without a signature, your letter is a dead letter. Because who is writing the letter? You may have the sender's address, but then without the signature, the letter is not authentic. It does not have any value. It doesn't hold any value. So if your letter should hold a value, then obviously you must have a signature attached to that. And signature, after that, name in caps. you give your signature, then open a bracket and write your name in capital. With this, the formal letter comes to a close, or you can say it attains its proper shape. All the requirements. Okay, you need to fulfill all the requirements. And here you see I have given you 3 points. Politeness, this is already discussed, but down to earth. What do you mean by down to earth? Be specific. Don't beat about the bush. Don't write stories. A letter is not for stories. A letter should not find any stories in that. No explanation is required. No examples are required. So remember, you have to be down to earth. State the point directly. Come to the point directly. Okay? That is very important. Grammar, the most important. This is very, very, very important. Why is it very, very, very important? Because without grammar, there is no language. And without grammar, you will not be able to maintain the politeness. So, grammar plus politeness, these 2 aspects are very, very important. Keep them in mind. So, look at this once again. This will make the picture of a formal letter clear. Formal letter is brief. It has proper grammar, as I have just discussed. It has an introduction, it has a content, it has a conclusion, and no sentiments are involved in writing a formal letter. I'm very happy, I'm very upset because the water that is stagnant in our locality is creating a lot of problems. The stagnant water creates, it becomes a breeding ground for diseases. So I'm very much upset and I'm so sorrowful that when I see people getting admitted to the hospital, my heart breaks. No, this sort of language is not required. Your heartbreak, your emotions, they are not included in a formal letter. A formal letter is very, very official. So, only the complaint, the nature of complaint should be written. No sentiments, no expression of feelings, polite language once again, and be thorough with the style. There is a style. I will discuss the style. What do you mean by style? The way you write the letter, the kind of expressions, terms that you use in the letter, that comes under the style. And then keep your letter between 5 to 8 lines. The maximum lines you can go up to could be 10, because after that it becomes lengthy. So 2 to 3 lines of introduction, 5 lines of content, and 2 lines of conclusion. So if you can keep your letter within 8 to 10 lines, that would be a fine letter. See, writing a formal letter is easy if you know the style, because it doesn't take much time. Whereas when you write an informal letter, you go on writing. You take liberty with the language. You write and write and write. It can go up to 2 to 3 paragraphs as well. No problem. And this is a very easy kind of what you call writing, because the style is liberal. So even if you make 1 or 2 mistakes here, it is acceptable. But it is not acceptable here. In a formal letter, no grammatical mistakes, because they are written to officials who hold key positions, high positions, right? So, now that I have given you the features of a formal letter, I will take you to the format, and with that, we will wind up the class. The next video that I am going to present will be of the format, and with that, we will wind up the class. Then I will give you some more topics as homework or as assignments. So, let's go on to the next part.